So we just thought you would be a great guy to chat with on just, practice planning in that for an extended period. And like you and I talked, the idea come from, your involvement with the national team and how you would have those extended training blocks. So
Yes, that's right.
there's got to be some pearls in there that our guys can take away and apply to their youth teams here. So I guess I'm kind of done talking here, Dave. We'll listen to you. And
yeah, that's good. Well, thank you, Blaine. And I did, guys, aim for the Pee Wee Bantam age groups because I know that's what Blaine was talking about. And I think that's a really important point in the development of a young player. And some people, especially parents, I think might be worried about what's happening with the game through the COVID situation, not playing games, being concerned about that. And that's, there's no question, it is a bit of a concern. So I'm going to try to just give you some thoughts on what you might try to do. I'm going to try to reinforce a few things with you that I know, but just to make sure that we all start on the same page. To me, you're running a prolonged hockey school is really what you're doing. A lot of you guys out there tonight, I'm sure, run hockey schools in the summertime. Well, it's the same type of thing, only because it's just basically skill instruction and hopefully acquisition, and then it's game understanding. And so I think to develop game understanding in a young player, you have to play the game. You should learn the game by playing the game. So I think, and I'm going to talk a bit about this, you have to practice, but you have to play. So part of every practice, from my point of view, during this virus thing, would be that there's got to be some scrimmage time every day. So I'm going to talk a bit about that. First thing I want to talk about is, if you look at what young guys like, young players at that age group we're talking about, number one, they want to have fun. They want to enjoy it. It's a break from school. It's a chance to let loose and be with their buddies, have a lot of socialization. So they really want to have fun, and you're the guy who controls a lot of that. One of the parts of having fun is boredom can set in sometimes, and that can make a player really wonder why they're out there. So variation is really important. I think it's important for all of you to try to get some variation to your practices you're going to have, because if they're not going to play, you want to still maintain their interest in the game. So your enthusiasm and variation, those two things make a difference. And I think always young players want to compete. I don't think that ends because you're not going to play games. To me, competition and practice is what makes players better. It makes them better in games. So they want to have fun, they want variation, and they want to compete. I think when you're working with young players, and this goes back to my days as a hockey school instructor, with young kids the ages we're talking at, you really want to avoid, if you can, standing in lines and waiting for their turn too long. I mean, yes, some recovery is needed, enough so that they can get into it and do the next repetition with some pace. But you always try to avoid having kids waiting in line, because then they misbehave or they're not concentrating, and pretty soon they're not as interested or motivated. So that's one thing. When I watch youth practices, and I've watched my grandsons over the years when they were practicing, and when I coached in Russia, I watched a lot of youth teams play and practice. So I've enjoyed that, but I've always found that the pace of a practice tends to drop. When kids first come out on the ice, the pace is usually pretty darn good because they're really enthusiastic. But, as a little bit of fatigue sets in, and if it's not as interesting as they'd like it, the pace can drop. So you have to have some solutions for that. So I think always, when I do drills with kids at hockey schools, and as I said, this is what you're into, I think it's, as a coach, you have to be able to, in the drills, provide the appropriate amount of pressure to force the youngster to play quick. So don't get in the way and disrupt their skill acquisition, but you can be that designated checker in some drills as a coach, or it's better a coach, because if you put a player in there, they just want to go and wreak havoc on the whole thing, and then they're drill destroyers, and you don't want that. So a coach really, in a lot of your drills, you can provide appropriate amount of pressure, and that generally stimulates the pace. The second thing you should try to do is, if you decrease space, you increase pace. So that's one of the values, and we'll talk about that in a minute, of small ice, small number games, is because you take the ice and reduce it, reduce the numbers too, but you reduce the ice surface or size, that's usually when you increase pace. And beyond that, anytime you get into a small area games with kids, they compete. And I think that really stimulates the pace as well. So I think it's like chasers in a drill, small area, small numbers, those kind of coach providing appropriate amount of pressure, that stimulates the pace to stay pretty good. And that's what you want. You want to get pretty good pace so the kids start to do things at game speed, because you have to play a game sometime, and there is a difference. Sometimes some kids can do a lot in practice but not do as much in a game because the pace is something they're not used to. One thing I learned about youngsters, always, when they step on the ice, quite often they'll ask you the same question at hockey schools: when do we scrimmage? And so, as I said, I think every practice you have during this COVID, I think you have to make sure there's time committed to practice and to games, to play, to scrimmage. If you can do that, that really helps their interest. But I think it just shouldn't be random scrimmage. I think you can, sometimes it can just be play. Let them play, let them figure it out. Don't give them too much instruction. But sometimes I think you can use special rules to stimulate a concept, to stimulate a tactic, to make them have to think a little bit. If you can do that, it's more focused scrimmaging, and that's really good. It's still fun for them because they're scrimmaging. But if there is a special rule in place, sometimes that does force them to have to think a little bit. And that's not a bad thing, because you have to learn to think, to play the game a little bit. One possibility, there's lots of variations. You can go to Hockey Canada's site, or you can go to USA Hockey, and they have lots of small area, small ice games you can play with kids. Really good. I've gone through both USA Hockey and Hockey Canada stuff, and there's a lot of good ideas. One of the ones I really liked was playing 3-on-3 cross ice hockey, where you can't make consecutive passes between the same two players. So say A passes to C, C can't pass back to A. He's got to find B. B's got to get open. B's got to work to be available. He's got to work to support the puck carrier. So as they move the puck and look to try to create a scoring opportunity, and they have to pass the puck, but they can't pass consecutively between the same two players. So it's simple. It's a little bit of focus for them. They have to think a little bit. At first, they won't be very good. At first, it'll be turnover after turnover after turnover. But if you stay with it, stay focused with them, stay positive with them, they do start to figure it out. And that's one of the things you have to learn about kids is tell, don't yell. I mean, just keep using the cue words you can, keep it positive, and they'll pick it up. As I said before, you learn the game by playing the game. And that's why I like controlled or focused scrimmage, because to me, game understanding is a huge asset to a player. One thing I learned a long time ago, guys, when I started coaching, I realized that sometimes the youngster that comes up through the game who can skate like hell, they can skate like hell, but they don't know how to think. Everything they've accomplished in the game is through their ability to skate and outskate people. They're bigger, stronger, faster, a little bit more capricious when they're young. And I think that they're kids that start off like, and then go like heck, but often they're players later on who can't think. Sometimes the kid who's a plotter and not fast, he becomes a pretty good player because he has to figure it out. He has to share the puck. He has to be clever. He has to angle when he checks. He can't outskate anybody to get the puck. So he's got to use his head. And so sometimes I found guys that weren't brilliant skaters when they were young became really good players. Their game sense improved because of their skating deficiency. I'm not saying we want kids who have skating deficiencies, but I am saying that often those are kids that think. And so we have to create drills, small ice hockey, so that even the guy who's fast has to play in traffic, has to get lots of touches on the puck and get his chance to play. Here's a menu of some possible variations that I think you could maybe use with some kids. At hockey schools for years, and it's done by, I've seen a lot of good hockey schools. I've seen Dave Chartier's school in Saskatoon, where they'll often do station work. They'll have 3 stations on the ice in different areas of the ice. It's 8 or 10 minutes at each station with a coach. So it's after 8 or 10 minutes, they blow the whistle, kids grab a quick drink of water and go to the next station, and off they go. So in a 30-minute span, the kids get an awful lot of skill development. And the one good thing about it is the coach only has to focus on one drill. He has to know what the key teaching points are, how to set it up, but it's only one drill and it's repetitive. So maybe the first station, it's not as smooth or as good as it should be, but by the time the third group gets there, that coach feels more comfortable, more confident, and he's doing a better job. So station work is really important. And I think that's something you got to do. Your station work can be positional. When I was with the national team, we did a lot of forwards, defensemen, and goalie work in 3 areas of the ice, and where they were all doing skill and game situational stuff specific to their position. But the one thing I would say, and it's an important point, really an important point, when you're working with kids, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, peewee and bantam kids, I think you got to be really careful about labeling them into one position too early. Might get a young guy who the first 3 or 4 years of his career plays defense, and that was just a coach's decision. It wasn't that he had any more skills to do it. Maybe skated backwards a little better than some of the other kids, but it's really important, I think, for youngsters to play more than one position. They shouldn't be just defensemen or forwards. They should be skaters, and they should learn to play all positions other than goal. I don't think you need everybody to be a goalie. That's not going to work. So positional stations work really well. With youngsters, make sure they play all positions so they don't have to just work as a forward or a D-man. They can work as a skater. Small area or small numbers, 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, cross ice are really good things. One thing I often do, I take the rink and I'll do certain things to it. For example, I'll take a corner, and what I'll do, so the icing line is there, I'll take the net from where it normally is, and I'll put it in the corner off the boards about 10 feet or so there's room behind the net to be able to play. I kind of spray paint or cordon off with pylons an area in front. So I've really got an area, including the back of below the icing line and out in front of the icing line. It's about the size, maybe a little larger than a face-off circle. And I'll play, all the kids stand on the outside of the circle, or they can stand in one line. It doesn't matter where you want to put them. And the coach feeds pucks, and they play 10, 12 to 15 seconds, 1 versus 1 in that small area. And now you're going to be able to do some things that are very interesting for a young player. The coach, know the cue words, know what you're trying to teach. So for example, say it's 1-1 in that small area. So defensively, I might stress, get close, stay close. Guys, don't separate. Don't let him separate. He does a tight turn, you do a tight turn. He does a quick stop to create separation, you do a quick stop. Don't give him separation. Get close, stay close. I might secondly say, guys, as much as you can, get your stick out on puck as much as you can. So his ability to handle a puck is challenged. And in a game, obviously in a one-on-one, it's not there, but in a game, his ability to pass the puck is going to be reduced a little bit by stick on puck. And that's just a good habit to have defensively. Offensively, I might say, number one, you want to create separation, because separation is time. When you create separation, you get time to make a play or take a shot. Anytime in the one-on-one in a confined space, if you get enough separation to shoot, because that tells the checker he's not close. He's playing off too far. So you really got to stress to him, create separation, and when you get a shooting opportunity, take it. Not only is it good for him, but it's also good for the goalie to get some work in that station. And they learn one thing: if I create some separation, it may not be very much, but it's enough to get a shot away. That's valuable. And I might stress, to create separation, change of direction, quick tight turns, lookaways, fakes, shoulders, hips, but anything you can do to create separation is really important. So those are the cues that I would stress in a small area 1-1 that I think would be really good. I'll also take that net after a few minutes and I'll move it, not so it's facing out, but so it's facing the boards. It's in the same place. It's in the corner. It's about 8 or 10 feet from the boards, but it's facing the boards. And so now they're going to play a lot low around the boards. They're going to play close to the boards. So they learn to play the soft shoulder, to roll off a check. They learn if you keep your feet moving, you're hard to pin. Those are good offensive things they learn. Defensively, they learn control of hips. So these are the cue words, even with kids you talk about, and pretty soon they improve their offensive skill or their defensive skill 1 versus 1. So I really do, even at the NHL level, I just do a lot of small area 1-1 because that's where the game is won and lost. It's won and lost on one-on-one confrontations. If you can be strong one-on-one, your team is going to be pretty good. You're going to be hard to play against. If you can get close and stay close to people, you will be really hard to play against. So those are good things for the kids in this time you've got with lots of time. They're fun little games. They're 10 or 12 seconds of high pace. You blow the whistle, those guys come out, 2 guys jump in, you spot a puck. You're either on offense or you're defense. If you get the puck, you're suddenly on offense. The other guy's got to get the defensive side. So they're really good little small area games, and they're 1-1. You can go 2-2 in those areas, make the area slightly bigger, not a lot, but a slightly bigger, and go 2-on-2 with the same 2 drills. If you do that, you're going to find your kids start to play fast. They love to compete, and technically their skills will get better, especially if you're using those cue words. That's all you got to do is keep talking about get close, stay close defensively, get your eyes up, stick on puck. Don't watch the puck when you're checking. Things like that, the kids get better. You can also do theme practices. One of the things I think that we have to work on with youngsters, scoring is a skill. We do all kinds of things for passing, receiving, and shooting. But do you realize that the actual essence of scoring is a skill? It's the hardest skill in the game to do, is to score. That's why we only have a couple of Ovechkins, Crosbys, and those guys, because scoring is hard. So you can only improve your scoring skills if you have some pressure, either from the coach or a chaser. But all your shooting drills, if you can add coach pressure or chaser pressure, so the guy has to receive a pass and release it quickly, follow his shot to the net, good habit, stop at the net, you're going to find that scoring skills will improve. And everybody wants to score. You should, in those kind of drills, if you can, keep score. Create 2 teams of 4 or 5 guys each. They alternate team to team shooting, and you keep score. Provide a little competition. These are all, put a time limit on it. You know, it might be a one-on-one, and the guy's got 7 or 8 seconds to create a shot. That's it. He's got to play game. He's got to play fast. He's got to get quick separation. So those are important. So scoring, I think, makes for a good theme practice. Today, we're going to work on scoring. For defensemen, it's changing the angle and getting the shot through. It's a fake shot, push it off the heel, step to the side, get the shot through. Those kind of moves. I also think you should consider, as a part of a theme practice, maybe the Olympics. Have some skating races, have some scoring contests, have some cross-ice games. So in the course of a 60 or 65 or 70-minute practice, set up the Olympic Games and have a theme for the day. It's going to be skating races, 1 versus 1, team races, whatever you like. Kids love to compete, and the theme of the Olympics, I think, is a good thing for kids to stay a little bit more motivated with. I think you should consider, if you can, guest coaches. Sometimes you can get an ex-player or a current player who's got pretty good skill to be a demonstrator for you. So sometimes some coaches, they feel handicapped by the fact that they don't have technically really good skills. They're a father who's played the game a long time ago. Maybe he never played it very well, full of good intentions, but it's hard sometimes to teach skill if you can't demonstrate. So when you're going to do a practice, that you think needs demonstrating and needs some skills, can you get a warrior to come out? Can you get a guy who's an ex-player, retired warrior or college player in town who's got some skills to come out and give you some of his time as a demonstrator? Because it sure helps kids to be able to, they can hear it, and that's good. When they can actually see it, that's even better. And then, of course, when they can actually get to try to do it, that's even better yet. So sometimes the demonstration is really, really important. So guest coaches, I think, are an important thing to do. And I think the only thing I don't know about there, I don't know what COVID rules would be in place. So you'd have to check out on some of those things. I like challenge days. When I coached at the University of Saskatchewan with the Huskies, I wanted to make sure that we were always a team that, whether we won or not, I wanted the other team to know that it was one heck of a tough game, that they had to compete like heck to beat us. So we had a lot of challenge days where we'd have 3 zones on the ice. We have an end zone. We'd have a 2-on-2 cross ice game going for a third of the team. In the middle zone, we'd have a skill work, but it'd be really challenging with coach pressure, coach checking. And then in the other end zone, we would do mirror drills or follow the leader drills for agility skating and things like that. You just use your imagination. But you can take the 3 zones and make every one of them challenging skill activity, whether it's individual puck control, as I said, playing 1-on-1, 2-on-2, or whether it's mirror drills or follow the leader drills for agility skating. Those are all drills that become very competitive. And the challenge, I think, that's what makes kids better. I think if they just do a drill on their own, the pace drops off. I think you have to work at really trying to create that pace. The next thing I want to talk about on the menu is when I used to do hockey schools in Saskatoon, I remember reading a book way back when I was a young coach, about 50 years ago now. That's great, isn't it? It was a drill by Tarasov, Anatoly Tarasov, and it was called Road to Olympus. And he talked about these conveyor belt drills. And all they are is you divide the ice lengthwise, okay, into 3 or 4 lanes. 4 is better, because if you do 4 lanes, 4 vertical lanes down the ice, and you have a course set up where there's stick handling forward and backwards, touching knees down, tight turns around pylons, weaving through pylons, jumping over a rope as you control the puck. Those types of things, if you can get 4 lanes, you start and finish at the same end. So what happens is you eventually get about at least 3/4 of your team is on the course. They're active. Only about 1/4 of your team is ever sitting one time, and not sitting, standing at one time back at the start, getting a short rest, then they have to go again. And so these conveyor belt drills, the reason I like them is you get so many repetitions. You have to be alert though. The pace will start to drop a little bit if you don't occasionally stop it, give them a short water break, bring them back, start it again. And again, 4 lanes is good. They get all kinds of skill development. Just use your imagination. If you get tires on the ice, pylons, ropes to jump up and over, hurdles, whatever it might be, you create kind of a park with all these things, and you have 4 vertical lanes. And the kids, they can do this for, and I'm not kidding, in Russia, they do it for 30 minutes. They do it for 30 minutes, and you get so many repetitions. And then every so often, the coach will blow the whistle, and when he blows the whistle, it's called the blast. Doesn't matter where you are on the coast, on the course, leave your puck and take off, and you got to go through the course, all those turns twice. And so that really elevates the pace. And then you give them a little rest back at the starting point, and you start again. And as I said, you get very few people standing in lines. They're working, they're busy. The coaches can move around through the course and give advice at certain cue words at certain points. And it's really, I think, it's coach friendly because you're not having to supervise too much, but you have to help. The players are getting lots of activity, and I just think conveyor belt drills are good. And again, 4 lanes is better than 3 because 4 lanes, you start and you end at the same end of the ice. They just skate from one corner to back to the original corner where they started, get a short rest, and they're back on the course. So those conveyor belt things are really good. I should tell you something about Tarasov, okay? Tarasov was
Dave,
yeah.
just before you, I just wanted to tell the guys in the chat box, Joe did up a rink diagram of what you were just talking about, the conveyor belt. So
Good.
it is there for guys for download. So
Perfect.
yeah, like, and just a question on the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Like, so within the whole 4 lanes, you would have them possibly changing skills multiple times throughout the.
Yeah.
Or would you do one skill, try to do one skill all the way through the whole thing?
No, it's multiple skills. Down the first lane might be pylon weave. Coming back, the next one might be tight turns around pylons. The third one might be some, pivots forward to backwards, backwards to forwards with the puck. And the fourth lane coming back might be you jump the lines, touch a knee down, agility work, balance work with the puck. So for young kids at that Pee Wee Bantam age, that's the type of thing. And there's your diagram right there. And that's really good. That's exactly what we were talking about, Blaine. I really admire your artwork. It's very good. Well done.
That is
the story about Tarasov. Okay.
Yes.
Tarasov was a famous Russian coach. And he's the guy who, when he watched hockey, he tried to, the first thing that struck him is it looks like basketball on skates. So he's a guy who brought a lot of basketball tactical stuff into the game. And he's the father of Russian hockey. And I remember we used to go to the Izvestia Cup every year with the national team. And I think four times I was there for the Izvestia Cup. And he'd always, after the game, come over and see me. And he'd always say the same thing. So every year, the same thing. I'm not sure he knew that, but he did. He always said, "Oh, I like your effort of your players. I like their enthusiasm. I think they play hard." But he always said, and then his fourth point was always the same. They have to play faster. They have to play faster. They don't play fast enough, long enough. And I didn't want to tell them that they wouldn't give us the puck. So anytime you're chasing the puck, you get tired. When you got the puck, it's a lot easier than when you're chasing it. And so we learned a lot from playing the Russians. And Tarasov was the guy who invented these conveyor belt drills. And he used them with his national team players and Red Army players as well, not just with children. And they're really, really good drills. So I really like that. And I think that they should be used. Another part of the menu I had here is, I think you should maybe, if you can, do some innovative things, like maybe a game versus the dads. So maybe a couple of times during the month, you get the fathers that can play and skate, have them come out and join you for part of the scrimmage with the kids and have a dads versus the kids game. Bring some fun to it, bring the family out to it. I don't know if they're allowed in the rink. I don't know what the rules are with the COVID. So when I thought about that one, I thought, geez, I don't know if that's going to be feasible, but it's nice for the kids to play against their dad and dangle them a little bit and, make them feel bad. That's good. One other thing I had in my menu of different things you could do to maintain interest and keep the kids excited. All kids love music. They got those headphones on all the time. Don't be afraid to pump some music into your practice. For not saying every drill, you don't have to do that, but for some drills, pump the music on, get it on loud, high-paced music for a high-paced drill. So that conveyor belt thing, you could put in some different types of music to pump it up and get the pace higher. And the other thing is, kids just love music. They really love their music, and I think that's a way to excite them. They don't get a chance, something that they wouldn't or normally get to do. They don't get to listen to music during a practice. But I think this would be a good thing. And so any innovations like that you can think of, I think have the potential to be really helpful for a young player. Again, you're in a situation where you're going to be not playing organized games. Doesn't mean you can't scrimmage and get better, because I don't think youngsters ever improve their game understanding very much by doing drills. They do get good habits. You can set up and work on good habits, and habits are part of game sense. But if you really want to develop an understanding of the game, You have to play the game. And I think that's why I like small area games, cross ice, even full ice. I don't mind full ice at all. And bring in a few rules in the game to force them to focus a little bit, to have to think a little bit, to add to the challenge a little bit. And that's good. One thing we did with the national team, when we started practices, we carried about 22 skaters and a couple of, I think 3 goalies in those days. We had probably a roster of 24, 25. So there's a lot of guys. We would play 2-puck scrimmage to start practice. We wanted practice to be fun. We wanted the guys to get to play right away, not go into a drill. And they did all their stretching in the dressing room. So we got on the ice, blew the whistle, and it was 2-puck scrimmage. The first puck that is worth 1 goal. The second puck, 1 puck goes in, so that other puck that's left, it's worth 2. And so what you've got is you got 11 versus 11. So what we found, and we said, here's where our instructions were. Our instructions were, know where both pucks are. Know where both pucks are. You are responsible to both pucks. Okay? So as soon as we started, we'd get about 10 players on one team chasing 1 puck, 1 guy defending. On the other team, we'd have 10 guys chasing the puck and 1 guy defending. Everybody wants the puck. Everybody wants to score. No one wants to play defense. But, it took about 2 or 3 practices, and all of a sudden, guys started to figure out, I have to have balance in my positioning. I have to know when to join it and when maybe the other puck's coming back towards, looks like it could turn over. Maybe I better think a little defense here. Always expect the unexpected. So we would give them cue words like expect the unexpected, play both pucks. Your balance on the ice is just, all balance really is just manageable positioning. Your positioning is manageable on both pucks. I could attack if I had to. I could defend from where I am. And we found it really, really improved their awareness on the ice. Their head were on a swivel, and they became better players. And they were having a hell of a lot of fun. And we would play that for about 8 or 9 minutes. And then the last puck would be the winning. Whoever scored that puck would win the game. And lots of fun. And those are just some ideas that we did with older players, that just to try to make sure that the kids were always enjoying it. But we were getting something from our point of view too. We were getting a chance to work on their development, not just have fun. They can go together, and that's one of the important things. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'll open it up. If anybody's got any questions, I'll try to answer those questions. We got about 15 or 20 minutes left by my watch here. So I just wanted to give you some ideas. I think what you're going into is challenging because it's new to you, but just think about it as being a prolonged hockey school. A couple of important things. Be well prepared. Make sure the coaches review the practice before you go out there. Know what you're going to do. If you can have it on paper, have it on paper. Assign who's going to look after what stations. Are they sure of the cue points and the cue words in each station? So you get as much as you can out of it. You don't have to be a great hockey coach, have been a great player to be a great coach. Ken Hitchcock can hardly skate. Scotty Bowman hardly played. Mike Babcock, I coached him, way better coach than he was a player. So it's just the way it is. I mean, you can be a good minor hockey coach by being a good person, by being well prepared, and then having fun with the kids and making it fun for yourself. If you do that, it's a great experience. And you're going to have maybe a month or 2 months, maybe 3 months of this possibility of being an ongoing hockey school. So I think that's really, really important. If I would recommend one last thing, if you know a person who operates a hockey school in your area, get it together with the guy, have a cup of coffee, and ask them what are some of the things that they do to work on skill development, hockey sense development with their hockey schools, because there's so much good stuff going on. I was lucky to have my son go to a hockey school in Saskatoon for my grandson Cole for 4 or 5 years, and every practice I just enjoyed it because they could see they were well prepared, they had good ideas, and the kids were having a blast and really working hard because they were enjoying it, and that's how you get better. So I'll open it up. Blaine, if anybody's got any questions, fire away. If there's something you want an opinion on, I can certainly try to give it to you.
Okay. Yeah. Fellas, we have a small audience, like a small enough one. Feel free to just unmute and ask Dave. I mean, we do have the chat box too, if somebody wants to type a question in there, and I could read it out to Dave. I know, Dave, I sure like the reminder about cue words.
Yeah.
Because it just, when you think about if you want kids to practice with pace or play with pace, sometimes you don't have enough, there's not enough seconds to say the whole sentence that it requires. So 2 or 3 cue words is very appropriate. Yeah,
those short sound bites are really good. I think cue words are really, really important to youngsters. Like when you're checking, get your head in the swivel, It means you're telling the youngster, and he knows it. If I get my head in the swivel, I can see the puck. I can also see things happening off the puck, away from the puck. So you can develop a lot of good habits, a lot of good game sense stuff by repeating these cue words in a lot of the small area or large area drills you do. And so, I've always felt that's sometimes 1 or 2 words can say so much, and they can really crystallize and really clarify. To me, for example, get close, stay close. Simple. But if you think about checking, that's what it is. Can you get close and stay close? You're going to challenge yourself. You can choose to back off and separate and give the puck carrier time and space, and he'll make some good plays, and it won't be fun. You can challenge yourself by playing close. And that's one of the things, guys, I think you've got a real opportunity here with with this format you're in. The kids can play on the edge of failure. Like if they play hard, play close, doesn't matter if they get beat one-on-one in practice. They won't get beat in the game because they've really worked on it in practice. So you've got a chance here for kids to play at a high pace, push themselves, and not have to play safe. Offensively, play with a little bit of risk. Take a guy on one-on-one. Doesn't have to be actually the best time to do it, but you can do it. And this format allows you to stretch those kids because some of the constraints of having to win are off the table a little bit. So it's going to be good for you to have a chance to really get lots out of these kids and push them a little bit, force them to play a little quicker than they might want to play. But you'll make some progress with them by doing that.
Dave, Rod Dahlman here. Hey, I got a question for you. Since COVID hit here, and we have a lot of practice time. Normally, what you're talking about is, starting out with a lot of those skills and drills and stuff like that, and building into a system. This year, I've tried something different because we knew we were going to have so much more time.
Right.
I started, Dave, with all system work, except, with no pressure on them, just very basic routes of neutral zone regroups, just breakouts, forechecking, but not even like into the real concepts of them. And now that has been probably about 6, 7 practices now. And now we're starting to break those systems back down again into some of the drills to make that system work. So now they seem to be having an understanding why, when we're starting to do the drills, we can relate to them and saying, this is the reason why. So when we're doing this breakout and we have the winger pushing up the boards type thing and that, you talked a little bit about that understanding. What's your thoughts on that?
I think what you're talking about, Rod, is brilliant. I've got a little bit to add at the end, but I really do think the idea of getting some team play in place early is good, because then the players will figure out where it fits and why they're doing it when they know that here's your basic overall system of play. The word system sounds like structure, but it's not so much that structured. It's still, but those are concepts of play. And I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that's really, really smart, because I think now your kids are probably doing drills and they can see where it fits in, why they're doing it, because it does apply to how you want them to play. And so I think that's a really good idea. I think you could do lots of things. For example, one of the things I was going to talk about was individual forechecking. You can do angling. You can do, angle, steer, and when to close. You close too early, the guy's going to cut back on you. So, those ideas, those concepts that make your forechecking system work. Teach the forecheck, like you said, Rod, that's great. And then backtrack and start teaching about, okay, here's some concepts for F1. Here's some things F2's got to look at. You can do those kind of things, and that's really smart. So I really like your suggestion. That's really a good idea.
Okay.
Terrific, really terrific. Can I ask a question here? Rod Dahlman, is that Rod Dahlman who played in Russia?
No, that might have been my cousin Marty.
Oh, Marty Dahlman. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I played an awful, Dave, I played an awful lot like that in the Western Hockey League. I used to make Smitty and Davey there a little bit embarrassed at times.
Yeah, I know the name. Sure,
yeah.
Rod Dahlman. Okay.
Smitty looks like a little bit, he looks a little bit like Bob Seger out there right now and stuff with that hairdo of his.
That's great. But I really like your suggestion, Rod. That's a really good idea. Sometimes, you do teach the whole, which is your basic structure of play, with not so much detail, but some detail to it. And then you can backtrack and the kids can then figure out why you're doing certain things because it does apply and they do understand where it fits in. That's
well, I found that when we started off the other way, they didn't know where our destination or where we were going to end up type thing and that. So this year, because we knew we had so much time, we went the other direction. So
perfect.
Yeah.
That's a very good suggestion for all of us. Thank you. Anybody else got, those are great ideas. That's a great idea. Anybody else, anything that they've tried with their hockey schools or with their teams that they think would work? We got to share ideas here, guys. It's going to be a challenge for us all.
Well,
yeah, hey, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
It's Mike Dundas out of Regina. I just had a question and something I've struggled with, especially now. The ratio between individual skill development and getting into systems and even team play, how to take on a 2-on-1 and how to play a 2-on-1, that sort of thing. What are your thoughts and recommendations around there?
Well, I think you have to do some. I mean, to do a 1-on-1 drill, say it's a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-1 rush drill, and the kids really don't know what your plan should be, what types of things they should try to accomplish. I think it's kind of the same as Rod is saying. I think you have to, besides doing some competitive drills that are fun and keep the guys really working at a high pace, yes, you do. You have to build in some of those individual and small group tactics because that's part of your system of play. So I think you have to do that. I think you're doing a skill or a drill. It might be a competitive one. And as I said before about, talked about getting close, staying close, you can add other things too that are very important. And I think so that I think your approach is correct. I think you have to do that because you're slowly then building their understanding. And when you do that, I mean, when you can combine skill development and tactical development, you're doing a lot for a player because a lot of play in the game, smart players find solutions, not always the most skilled player. And so game understanding is really, really important. And so I think you have to be able to tell them why, not just what you're doing, this is why we're doing it. And when they know why they're doing it and how they're going to do it, I think you got a chance for that youngster to really learn how it, and he'll figure it out, how it fits into your game. And when you're talking about a 2-on-1, you're not just talking about the defenseman defending, you got to talk about the goalie. The goalie's got to know how the defenseman's playing it because that tells him how he's going to have to play it. So yes, everything's related. So what you're saying is completely correct. I like that approach. It's terrific.
I have another one here, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, can the age group that we're talking about right now, the peewees and the bantams and stuff like that, our rosters are 17 players, 15 skaters, 2 goalies. So at times it's very limited, to be able to teach that much of the game. Where I wrestle with though is the conditioning factor portion of it. You know, like it's back in the old days there with Terry Simpson used to just sit in the chair and make us go around the ice to get into shape and stuff. Like those days are all over, you know. So where's that balance of trying to, because we have to be in shape. And so trying to find those drills that are high intensity to be able to get that. But I'm still wrestling with getting those conditioning drills of just a little bit of old school.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And that's why when I coached the national team, that was back in 1983 to 1992, we did so much small ice stuff. I think at times, sometimes the players were quite surprised we did so much small area, small numbers work, because not only were we trying to improve their ability to individually to be good players, or small groups to combine and be good together, we knew if we did small area, small numbers, that we would also address their fitness. And so we just did a lot of our like we did D-zone coverage. We did it 3-on-3 cross ice. So what we would do to teach the rules. Okay, so the first rule was talk. I got puck, I got puck. So you had to have the three defenders talking. Okay, who's got puck, who's got puck? Get close and stay close. Okay. We did all our D-zone rules of 3-on-3 down low, playing 3-on-3 cross ice, and it made it more fun. But you know, the guy passes off, ride the passer. Turn your head, find the puck. Never turn your back. I mean, you got your man, he passes off, don't chase the pass. You keep your man, the man who was on the new puck carrier, he'll jump to take him. You got to ride your man back to the net. If you can, keep some light stick contact. Now those days you could keep a stick on a guy, now you can't. It's all changed. But we did a lot of our work 3-on-3 for D-zone coverage, playing cross ice, because it was more fun, way more intensity, and we could still use the cue words to talk about the key concepts. And yes, we did structured work too, 3-on-3 in a corner, 10, 12 seconds, sorted out, all the stuff that your standard coaches would do. But we found the 3-on-3 cross ice allowed us to get everybody going. Like it'd go 12, 15 second shifts, maybe a little longer with coverage, maybe to 15 to 20 seconds. You blow the whistle, 6 more guys jump out. Those guys come out and get a break. We just found we increased their fitness so much, and that we also addressed the tactical understanding of playing in your coverage down, D-zone 3-on-3. So yeah, those are all parts. That's the art of coaching. Coaching is, there's a science to coaching, and that's the easiest part of the game. The art of coaching is what you've mentioned it, and so did Rod. The art of coaching is coming up with those ideas that can really stimulate thinking and playing the game. And so I think that's what we tried to do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? I know the Olympics idea is a great one, Dave. I've ran that the odd time. Probably not enough for it. When with reflection, a guy looks back and he goes, the kids like it, but you have a tendency to think, okay, we got to do team stuff or whatever, and instead, like, you're right. There was the kids, they compete, it's fun, and they're getting more out of it than you actually think. So
yeah, I think one of the things as a coach you have to do is, and a couple of our guys that asked questions mentioned it, like, I think it's not just going to be all skill like a hockey school. You have to do some tactical work. You've got to work a little bit on, I don't know, with if you do with peewees and bantams forechecking, but there's a few simple things you can do to improve your forecheck, be a bit more collective, to get them to reduce the amount of duplication, for example, to reduce hesitation in forecheck. So there's simple things you can do with kids that stimulate them to do things a little quicker. And I think those are good things. So you want to teach some team play, but at the young ages, if your team can pass and shoot better, skate better, play well together better, those are overriding tactical things too that make a difference. It's not just complete structure, but you need structure to play. You need to have some organization. You need to have some division of labor. So you got to build in some of those things as Rod and the other gentleman mentioned.
We've got a question here, Dave, from Casey O'Brien. So he's just asking your thoughts on video analysis from practices. So
I think
analyzing player skills and players' work ethic from practices.
You know, it's amazing. I have a son who coaches in Calgary, and Andrew, he did this 15 years ago or 10 years ago. They would video practices with a little camera, because the quality of these cameras is terrific stuff. Not every drill, but a few drills. And they download it to the kid's phone. And I said, are you kidding me? And he started to show me what you can do with simple, basic technology. Because kids now have the technological skills that are very advanced. So I like the idea of doing a few things. It might be we're working on skating technique with a skating instructor, one of your guest coaches, and you video each kid for 25 or 30 or 40 seconds, and then download it to them so they can see themselves skating and see what they have to work on. Those are brilliant ideas, and we have to use technology now because our kids are better with it than we ever thought we could be, and they love it. So yeah, those are really good ideas, really good.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, fellas?
Kinger, can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Randy
Yes.
Smith. All right.
Oh, Smitty, how are you?
Good. You?
God, terrific, Smitty. Great to hear from you.
Good to see you. What do you think for young players? I'm doing Pee Wee, but you could probably go Bantam even. What do you think the optimal amount of practice time is per session? Like, when do they start to tap out, mentally? Like, because we're sometimes given an hour. Sometimes we can get 1:15. Sometimes we can find an hour and a half of ice. When do you think you're at the point where it's useless anyway, because the last 5, 10, 12, 19, they're already tapped out mentally? What do you think the optimal time frame is?
I've always felt you definitely need an hour. And I think with kids, you can go an hour and 15. I think after that, you get into diminishing returns where unless you're going to use it for some other reason, I think sometimes an hour and a half could be great too. But I think for me, minimum, an hour and 15 is really perfect, because you get a chance to get into the rhythm of the practice a little bit. You have time to stop occasionally to correct a few things. In an hour, sometimes you're so worried about getting as much done as you can, you don't ever stop and give them a little feedback. It doesn't hurt once in a while to give them a recovery and to give you a chance to add a couple of things for the kids that can make a real difference. So I think, Smitty, I think you have to have an hour and 15 is almost optimal. I think that really gives you what you need in terms of good rhythm to the practice. You're going to get a lot of content into the practice. You've got time for some, I'm not a big believer, Smitty. I'm not sure if you can remember back to the national team days. I don't think we did a lot of stops and starts. Most of our fitness was just our work drill to drill. Would you agree with that or not?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we did a lot we did once in a while. We do some stops and starts because you have to do some of that once in a while. It's good training for you. It's good for your skating technique. But if you can keep the pace of your practice up, when you get over an hour, pretty soon, especially with little guys, they're going to be pretty tired. But if they're having fun, it's amazing how endurance increases when they're having fun.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure the last part of the practice ends on a real high note. It's got to be something you guaranteed is going to be fun, because that'll overcome any fatigue they have.
If you're trying to keep the pace of the practice high, what's your thoughts on like the actual feedback? Should it be individual in the line? Hey, Johnny, you know what? You got to, zip that pass over there, tape to tape, or should you be stopping and spending, making points to the entire group? Or should you just be finding the kids who maybe are struggling with something in particular, and just getting to them in the line while they're waiting to go on their next rotation, just so you can keep things moving?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I think sometimes you have to, if you got a guy who's really having a difficult time and really missing the point, I think you don't want to stop it for everybody, but can you keep it going and get at least a little bit of time to get that little guy for a couple of seconds, clarify what you want, maybe show him quickly what you want, get him back in line. You haven't disrupted everybody else's rhythm. You have his rhythm has been disrupted, but you're trying to help him, Smitty. So I think you got to do that. And again, it comes down to the art of coaching. And that's why I've always used so many cue words. I'm always on the ice. I'm not a spectator. As we're doing a drill, I'm continually, the most important part of the drill, the cue words that make it, the concepts we're trying to work on, I'm always talking about those things all the time. That's just the way it is. And that's one thing I've always done. And I think that's part of what you can do with youngsters too, is you can use your cue words, but you got to be not afraid to stop sometimes. Maybe the whole group, if they're not getting it, you better stop it because you're just wasting time then. The art of coaching.
All right.
The art of coaching. That's the hardest part of the game to learn. The tactics, the systems of play are easy.
Perfect. Thanks, Kinger.
Okay, Smitty.
Okay.
Say hello to Barb.
Anybody else?
Okay,
Well, Dave,
yeah, good.
we've chewed up an hour of your time to probably keep packing for your trip to the south.
Yep,
No,
problem.
anytime we can anytime we can listen to to Dave King talk about coaching and the art of coaching and share, and we know like you are more than willing to share all the time whenever we ask. So we certainly appreciate it, and we'll I'm sure we'll be pressing you again for next summer's HP1.
Yep.
For our next crop of people. So
I'll look forward to it, Blaine. I always enjoy working with SHA. I think you're doing some great things to help coaches out, and it's a great game for kids. And I think anytime we can help them enjoy something they love to do, it's terrific. And the game can do a lot for a youngster. If it's done right, it can do a lot for youngsters to make them understand that hard work and effort, dedication, get you places in this world. And I think that's still the essence of what we're trying to do with kids. A lot of kids you coach won't be hockey players later on, but they will be adults growing up, and they'll often look back to the days when they played for a certain coach that had an impact on their lives. And I remember when I was a young guy back when I think the Bible was written then, but it was way back, and where coaches, I can remember playing for guys and thinking, boy, those guys did a lot for me. So, you're doing a lot for your kids, guys, and I'd like to congratulate and thank you for what you're doing for youngsters. I just hope that you always yourself are enjoying it. And I can tell you one thing, it's the last thing I'll say. If you put lots into it, in terms of your preparation, you'll get lots out of it. You'll really enjoy the experience yourself. Your kids are going to love it. They're going to have a ball. And sometimes they won't thank you for it, but 10 years later, they'll know that you did a lot for them. So keep doing what you're doing. If you have fun coaching, that's a very important outcome for you too. And the last thing is, the game is ice bags and loose pucks. Never forget that.
that's great advice to finish off on.
Okay.
Thanks
Thank
very
you,
much,
guys.
Dave.
Okay, take care.
Thanks, Dave.